Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 058 of the WA Running Podcast. Here we are recording on Monday, the 9th of December, at the start of a stinky, hot, sweaty week of running. In today's episode, we cover results from the WAMC Founders Cup, aka the 4K World Champs, the Strive program on Saturday nights, and results around the world where a number of our WA runners took part, including the legitimate 100K World Champs, and a couple of international results that includes the Honolulu Marathon and the Monterey Marathon. Later in this ep, we get to speak to Ian Gibbs, the event director of the Bunbury Running Festival, about the origin story of the Runners Club, the Running Festival, and the 43rd edition next year. And finally, who will be this week's Weapons of War? Stay tuned to find out. Across my screen is my co-host, a proud father pacing his boy to an amazing time at the Founders Cup on Sunday, Chris the Metronome Shaw. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, Simon. I am feeling ready to go on a Monday night. Lots of great things happened this week, so looking forward to chatting about it today.
Yeah, so we've had a pretty busy week this last week. We did a double run club with the guys from Crap on Wednesday, and we did appear on their latest episode of the Casual Runners Appreciation podcast. And have to say, their fancy setup and cameras is something that was pretty uncasual. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, we can't even get functioning internet. So I think having it set up with 4 cameras and 4 microphones is well beyond our means at the moment.
Yeah, look, so we're going to hit up their editing guru because at the moment we're struggling to get an internet connection. We're struggling to get a record happening. And I spend hours on end trying to edit our filler words and our controversial takes that don't make it to the final episode. So, look, it was a pleasure being on their episode this last week. After listening to their episode a couple of days ago, I will mention that they did call us out at the end, saying that, we appeared on their episode, yet we've not mentioned anything about them appearing on ours. So, look, I think maybe in the new year where we preview the Bustleton Bay Run, aka the Double Run Club AGM, we might get those guys on in terms of previewing the events there. The other thing we talked about was the beer mile that we'll look to partake in with them next year. And I did see that Hayden took part in the Pub Runners Beer Mile on Saturday. I don't know if you had a chance to see his performance, but how do you rate Hayden McGregor's Beer Mile training run over the weekend?
I haven't had a chance to see it. I know that he was keen to do it. I don't doubt for a moment that he was successful in his endeavours. You'd be able to give me a bit of a recap, I suppose. But I think based on everything he's spoken about, he seems to be well versed in sinking a beer, and he's clearly able to run for a disproportionate amount of time by running in a moustache-shaped course around a park for 5 hours in Kalamunda somewhere. So I'm sure he's more than capable of dominating a beer mile.
Yeah, I hear that he actually came second last at the event over the weekend. So look, maybe Hayden's not cracked up for the beer mile event, but there's still plenty of time. We were chatting this morning about a potential date in the new year, so we'll let the casual runners announce it officially when it's time, but we might be in for a chance of winning beer mile against Crap once it's held next year. Shall we touch on training weeks? How's your week been?
Yeah, had a good week last week. Ran every day, I think. I don't think I had a rest day last week. So started off Monday with 60 minutes in the morning. Tuesday went for a 2-hour run. I hadn't gone for my long run the week before just because of the 3K World Champs and I guess squeezing runs in here and there, and it just all ended up a bit pear-shaped. But so I went for my long run Tuesday. I went from Kings Park to Bold Park with Ordwin and our friend Lan. That was a nice little hilly jaunt through the suburbs, I guess. And then topped it off in the afternoon with a little 20-minute jog with the boys, my boys, Henry and George. And then, of course, Wednesday we had the Double Run Club, our first time there. I will be back definitely because they live. Well, they don't. I'm sure they live all around the place, but I live right down the road from where the run club takes off. So I'll probably be back next week, I would say. And then obviously we had our record later that morning, which was great. Good to chat to everybody. Everybody was very welcoming there. I thought having a sit with a whole bunch of people that we hadn't met before, having a mango smoothie and a coffee was a lovely way to spend the morning. Thursday, so we had a Team Tina special. We had the 3x3 minute taper session for the weekend's 4K World Championships. So I think it was myself and Smarilli and Lan joined you on that one. So we ran that around Lake Munger on Thursday. Looked like we had pretty good splits there. That was pretty successful. Friday, I had another 60-minute jog in the morning, and then another couple of kilometres with Henry after that, just before school. Saturday, our friend Land was here, so he had intended to run a sub-18 attempt on the Saturday, but I think with the weather being a little warm and pretty windy, we decided not to do park run that day, and instead we were going to run a 5K threshold, which we ran along the South Perth foreshore in an attempt to kind of, I guess, give Land's confidence a bit of a boost. We decided to run our warm-up into the wind and then run a 5K downwind threshold, which certainly made things a little bit easier. I don't know if it made things easier for Land necessarily, but I had a good time. And then Sunday, we had the City Beach World Champs, of course. I'll let you recap your race, but it looked like there was good numbers there. Saw a few familiar faces from Let's Cook running team, Team Tina as well, not just yourself, but others. And a lot of good outfits. My boy Henry ran, as you said earlier. This was his first marathon club event. Yeah, we took off and ran under 25 minutes. So I think we had pretty good splits. His first K was 6:21, followed by a 6:13, then a 6:11, and then topped it off with a kick at the end to get him a 6-minute K flat. And he outsprinted a man of about 45 years old, I reckon, to the finish, which was great.
Yeah. So he's got the Chris Shaw kick at the end there.
Yeah. Hopefully. It seems like he's able to be a little bit conservative at the start, which is great. Most kids tend to go out a little quick, but he's after that we're on the drive home and he said to me, "Hey, how do I become a member of the marathon club?" And I said, "Well, we just have to sign up." And he said, "Well, how much does it cost?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I'll have a look." So anyway, that might be one of the gifts in the stocking this year is a membership to the WA Marathon Club.
Wonderful. So the Marathon Club has got itself a new member. So what does that mean for you as dad? Look, if he's getting his value for money, he's going to have to sign up for a couple of races in the new year to make the $70 worth it. Does that mean that the fun times of Chris Shaw at the Marathon Club events is over because now you're going to have to do some dadding?
Well, yeah, I've got to do some dadding. Got to make sure that he knows who's boss, though. So I can't keep letting him out sprint me at the end of these races. Yeah, but I think what it means is that maybe next year, a lot of those smaller races, maybe they are father and son or family runs if Maddie and George want to join in too. So, which is good. It's good to focus on something other than running quick all the time, and definitely adds a different dynamic to a Sunday morning run than it has been in the past.
Yeah, and maybe a younger Shaw can run a 3K and a 4K event rather than a 37-year-old man.
Exactly. I mean, there's no pride in beating a bunch of kids. So it's better if children are building children, right?
Yep, that's it. So we had a listener of the show ask what your shoe rotation looks like over the course of the week. So tell us about your current shoe rotation and what you would use those shoes for the various runs during your week.
Sure. Interesting question. I don't know if this is targeted for some reason, but I've got my favorite marathon shoe. We'll start with that. Is a Saucony Endorphin Elite. I've got a pair of those, which I use for Sydney Marathon, and I intend to run in a pair of those for Gold Coast next year. but I'll be saving those for that specific race. Then if we go down to, say, a workout shoe, I've got a couple of options there. I've got the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro, the first version. They're a great shoe for kind of threshold or tempo runs. I find them a bit funny to run over at like 5K pace just because they're so tall. But at that kind of steady to kind of threshold paces, they've got this giant cavernous, vault down the middle of the shoe, and it just feels like you're running on a trampoline. So that is a fun shoe to wear. Probably couldn't wear it for a full marathon, but I've run a half marathon in it, which has been great. Then in terms of like a VO2 shoe, just recently purchased the Leaning, the Chinese Leaning Special. Picked these up for I think $110 at the Running Warehouse with a Marathon Club discount. So didn't expect much from them, to be honest, but they are a very capable shoe. They've got a carbon plate, they've got a race foam, presumably some kind of nitrogen infused EVA or a PEBA or something. I'm not exactly sure what it is, and you can't find any information about it online, but it does feel very similar to the likes of like a Wave Rebellion Pro, but with basically if you took out half of the stack height, you would feel, and it made it like a flatter shoe. So it feels like it's almost like a 4mm drop versus something like an 8mm drop. So it feels very flat, and it can be a bit because it is quite narrow. It can feel a bit touchy on the calves and the Achilles, but as long as you've warmed up, you're ready to go. It's a good shoe. Again, wouldn't wear it for probably much more than a half marathon, but good shoe at top end speeds. And then my daily shoe is probably just the New Balance More V4, big fat shoe, feels comfy. I ran Perth Marathon with you recently in that shoe, and it's great to just cruise along. And it's heavy, but you don't really feel the road. And for days where your kind of legs are struggling, it's probably a good option.
Must be nice having all those shoes, mate.
Well, I mean, yeah, thanks. I do try to get them all on special though. So I think I got the Endorphin Elites, which are usually about $380 retail. I got those for $200. Obviously, got the Leanings for $110. The Wave Rebellion Pros, I think I picked them up for about $170, and they were probably a newish shoe at the time. So about 2/3 of the price. And then the More V4s are always on special, so I picked them up for around $110 too. So if you're keen and you know a little bit about shoes and you're willing to shop around, you can certainly get a good deal.
Yeah. And look, just to compare, my shoe rotation consists of two shoes. That is the 880s, the New Balance 880s, which have probably seen better days. I think I've done over 1,100 Ks in them.
Wow.
And then the alternative shoe I have is the Magic Speed 4s, which I've just recently purchased, and I did the John Gilmore 10K in them, along with some of the recent races. I've been sneakily using them for a couple of workouts here and there. And I'd say I'd add the third shoe to the mix, which is my old SC Elites, which I have done a couple of half marathons. I did the Bunbury Marathon in them. So, look, I just wanted to compare our shoe rotations because Linda complained a couple of weeks ago about my huge list of shoes that I'm rotating and buying, but I've only got 3, and I just wanted a comparison with a fellow 35-year-old person. And his shoe rotation. So, Linda, if you're listening to this, we'll see how many shoes I buy in Japan when we go on our trip in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I feel like things are going to swing around the other way shortly.
That's it. All right, I'll do my training week. So Monday last week, I didn't do my usual run with Rach. So Monday morning was when the Gold Coast Marathon tickets was out. So I had told Rach the night before that I ain't going to do a run with her. Managed to score some tickets, and in the afternoon post work, I managed to squeeze in 40 minutes heading towards East Perth. Tuesday was a 6 by 1 minute at VO2. So usually these range between sort of 10 to 12
Mhm.
reps of 1 minute efforts. But with the Founders Cup on Sunday, we dialed that down to 6 reps. That was at Hyde Park around lunchtime. I can't remember what the weather was that on that Tuesday, but managed to hit those at sort of 320 to 315 per K efforts, somewhere around there.
Mhm.
Wednesday was our double run club with the crap guys. That's a really nice loop around that area. Some fancy houses that we ran past, and what was a what was a nice little end to the run was I don't know if you remember, Chris, but we ran past a guy on the park bench that just started clapping as we were running past, and I wasn't sure if he was clapping to us or whether he was just clapping randomly. But that was really appreciated as a person that had to drive 45 minutes to the area. So that was a good run that morning, and I won't be back. It's a bit of a drive for me, but looks like Double Run Club has its new member in Chris Shaw. Thursday was our 3 by 3 minutes that I did with you, Smirelli, and our mate Lan. So again, this is a bit of a tune up for Sunday. So the 3 minute efforts were about 3:30 to 3:35s around there, which we were able to nail off a 1 minute jog. I recall it being a beautiful morning at Munga, so that was awesome. We do a 1 lap warm up. We do whatever our workout is, and it's usually a tempo workout on a Thursday, and then we do a 1 lap to cool down. But because there were only 3 by 3 minute efforts, we managed to do 2 laps after that to take us to 14 Ks for the morning. Friday was a rest day, and on Saturday I met up with the team, Team Tina at Scabs. So while they did their Saturday tempo session, which was 2 by 15 minutes, I just did a 30-minute jog. Got myself the new Team Tina singlet, and one of the issues with the Tina singlet is when I first joined the team, I asked for a small, and when Tina gave me the singlet, it felt like a crop top. So I have worn those singlets to a couple of the races, very tight. So when Tina did a new batch of singlets, I asked for a medium, thinking that I don't want the crop top experience, but the medium is now a bit too big, so I might have to rotate between a crop top and a big baggy singlet, depending on what I feel like on the day. And Sunday was the 4K Founders Cup, so happy to take through that race. So yeah, look, I got there half an hour early and did a 4K warm up. Bumped into Dan Bowbridge as he was coming down, so we jogged the course together. And yeah, look, there was no wind. It was starting to get warm, but it wasn't too bad. And yeah, we just did a quick loop, and then by the time I got to the start, it was probably 10 minutes to the start. A bit of a packed start line, a lot of familiar faces, and lots of friends of the show. But yeah, it was a tight start, and once the gun went off, I think it was a horn. Once the horn went off, we all took off, and look, I think with the tight packed start, I was trying to get into the right position, but what that meant was I was going way too fast than what I had planned. So first 500 meters, as you sort of get out of the footpath and onto the main road or onto the access road area, I was already hitting 3:15s, which was way too quick. So I tried to slow down so that my first K ended up being 3:27, somewhere around there. And then at that point, I got absolutely smoked by the first female in Brie Ilada. She was hitting 3:30s and zoomed off in front of me. And there was a bit of a gap between myself, and there was a bit of a pack forming, perhaps maybe 15 meters in front of me. So we got to the turn, and I guess my job at that point was to try and chase that pack down. But they were way ahead and they were way too quick. Now, Tina's plan and pep talk to me was to try and sort of go out in 3:35s, but then once you do the turn, to just full send the last two because you don't
Mm.
want to run out of race. But I think at that point, I don't know if it was a combination of like the weather or maybe just going a bit too quick at the start, just feeling really fatigued in the legs, and my throat started to dry up. And it was a very similar feeling to the Founders Cup last year, where I just really struggled to compose myself and to maintain the pace. So I ended up doing the last two slower than the first two in
Mhm.
3:37s and 3:38s. But yeah, managed to hold on to third place. I finished, I think, with a time of 14:24. Yeah, so Smithie, started really strong and kept pushing. Drew Langford, I didn't see him at the start, but he was way ahead. So there was a bit of a gap between them two, and I think Smurley just beat Drew by a couple of seconds. So he wasn't. They were quite close together, whereas
Mm.
there was a good distance between myself and fourth place. So I'd say I was probably about 30 seconds behind. I think the demoralizing thing was I knew that the time that you did last year was 14:20. And as I was coming around the bend and seeing 14:20 on the clock, I went, fuck. I missed out on taking your time. But I think I finished, 14:24. Look, still a pretty good effort considering, but I think there's some potential there to bring the time down. And, if I'm thinking about sub 18, I do need to be able to hold on to that 3:35 pace. So although the average across the 4Ks was 3:35s, I think I might need a little bit more work to be able to hit sub 18 when I next do my 5K attempt. So that was the race. It was a great day. Lots of people dressed up, like you said. I think I do enjoy the Founders Cup just because of the last, I suppose, semi-serious race of the year.
Mm.
And yeah, it's a great event that's held by the Marathon Club. They do a pretty good breakfast spread. Everyone's in a merry mood this time of year, and you get to do a dip in the ocean afterwards because you're right at City Beach. So it was a great event. I then did a cool down with Jess and Rach. So it was 12Ks for the day, and I think it was a down week this week, so
Mm.
it was probably less than 60Ks for the week. But got the next block with Tina over the Christmas New Year, and looking at the block ahead, a lot of focus in the interval session. So
Mm.
it'll be interesting to see how that goes this Thursday. I saw the minimum being 24 degrees
Mm.
Thursday morning, and the session we've got planned Thursday is a tough one. So we'll see how we go later in the week. But yeah, so it was a good week overall. A lot of socializing with the guys from Crap and guys from and everyone at the Founders Cup on Sunday, and even getting to meet some of the Team Tina guys on Saturday was great to see as well.
Mhm.
A couple of anecdotes for me was after admitting in the last episode that we both have a crush on Ben Tay. I was told on Saturday that the singlets are coming. The merch drop for the Bente Run Club singlets is on its way, and Ben did share that apparently there's going to be an exclusive water bottle that might come out
Oh.
from the BTRC. So um, I believe that's coming. So we'll see. We'll see how that comes along. I did see Dan on Saturday as well, so I get to see Dan. I was able to see Dan 2 days in a row. I did see him rock his fresh Tarkine autopilots, which look like they have yet to been worn very much. And look, I think Dan was very quiet about those Tarkine shoes, about how he was going to test them out and do a review on the podcast, and then he just so happens to leave the podcast and not do much of a review. So he managed to score some auto parts for free. So very suspicious behavior by the accountant there. And then the third thing, one of the anecdotes I got this week was speaking to some of the guys from Team Tina. There's going to be a Team Tina 3-hour bus at Gold Coast Marathon with Shaf and Adam from the team, also hoping to get sub 3 done there. So looks like I'll be in good company, and will be a great training block leading into the new year and towards July 2025. So look, exciting week. As we look, generally with a lot of us runners during Christmas, we start to wind down, but my plan over the next month is to still cook a little bit during the workouts, and I'm going to Japan in a couple of weeks, so I'll hope to still squeeze some workouts then.
Yeah, so I guess first, I was just going to say, because we've got such shit internet, I haven't been able to interject or provide any feedback. Sorry, Simon, but I think one thing I was going to say is you probably shouldn't be so hard on yourself about the time you ran on Sunday, just because that I think the positioning at the start of the race is quite difficult, especially in races around Perth where we've got these narrow paths and things. And so I guess the lesson learned from that is, you need to put yourself right in the front of the line, ahead of the rest of the runners, potentially, just to, avoid that confrontation, well, not confrontation, but potential jostling for positions at the start of the race. But I guess that's a lesson that we all learn. I've made the same mistake, and often you don't feel worthy to stand at the front of a line, especially if you're one of us. But I think there's if you're wanting to get the best out of your race and you are trying to run, I guess you don't know if you're going to position or podium, but if you want to get the best out of your race, you have to put yourself at the front of the race to get the most out of it, for sure. So I think if you're going out a little hot there, you think maybe you save 5 or 6, 7 seconds on that first K, you might be able to push those into your last 2 Ks potentially, as you discussed with Tina. So yeah, look, I guess we've already spoken about offline, but potentially you not running the Strive meet in January. Hopefully, there's another opportunity for a 5K race at the Marathon Club, whether it be the Peninsula Run or the Matilda Bay Run. Potentially, those could be alternatives. And as long as it's not too hot, that sub 18 is surely going to come, especially with all the work you've been putting in. What I was going to ask about your block for the next 4 weeks, obviously you're going away, is what do those Thursday workouts look like, and am I going to suffer?
Are you going to suffer? Yes. So look, usually Tina does tempo sessions on a Saturday, and so what she's done for this block coming up is do the tempo run on a Saturday. And then the intervals are now on a Thursday instead of the Saturday. So just swapping those 2 days around. And yes, it is going to be a shit time. Sorry, Nancy. We're swearing again. Look, for this Thursday, from the top of my head, I think we've got 3 by 3 minutes hard, and hard probably means anywhere between 3:15 to 3:20 pace.
Okay.
Followed by a 1 minute float, and the float being our marathon pace, which would be 4:15s. And then we follow that up with 2 minutes hard again. And then we follow that up with 2 minutes easy jog from memory. And then you do that 3 times. So
right. Okay. Sounds fun.
It's going to be very fun on Thursday, when it's probably going to be in the mid to late 20s at 5:30. But we'll see how many takyaks we do come Thursday.
Yeah. Should we get onto the Marathon Club results, Simon? What do you reckon?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, cool. Let's get straight into it. So we'll start with the 8K, being the premier race of the World Champs. The men's race was won by Jack Wills, aka Space Prince on Strava, in a time of 27:41. And then coming in second was Mike Lawson, friend of the show, and past Marathon Club champion in his age category, I believe. And then, but I believe he's just turned 40 or maybe 60. I'm not sure how old you are, Mike, but maybe you're in the next category now, so you might have a few more competitors to potentially dethrone there. And then Adam Williams coming in third. In the women's, as you mentioned, Simon, we had Briolata finishing fourth overall, but in a time of 28:36. As you had done a little bit of, Strava stalking, it looks like Bree's back in Perth for Christmas or New Year, and coming back from the college, from the States, college in the States, and might be potentially quite a fast track runner. So we'll keep an ear out for Bree's times over the summer. And then coming in second was Janelle Consolis, and then Lauren French in third. The 4 kilometre, so the world champs. Here we go. So Matt Smarilli, friend of the show, runs a time in 13 minutes 55 seconds, which is pretty rapid. I think 3:27s off the top of my head. Drew Langford coming in second, and then lover of all things admin, Simon Pham, yourself coming in third. I actually didn't ask you about what you had come, because I thought that I thought potentially that Jack Wills was running the 4K. And so I saw him at the front, and then I saw Smarilli come in behind him, and then I saw another person behind Smarilli. So I thought, oh, maybe Simon's kind of sitting in fourth or fifth, but clearly Jack was extending himself and maybe running a little further than he might otherwise. But look, congratulations, Simon. How were the socks?
The socks were amazing this morning. I wore them today along with our first female in the 4K this morning. They feel amazing. And I know, look, our friend Perich took issue with the fact that he came third at the 3K Applecross run last week and didn't get socks. But look, I suppose we've got a bit of a pull here at the WA Running Podcast, and I guess third place gets socks all of a sudden. So they felt amazing. Look, I'm more of a compression sock kind of guy, but free socks were much appreciated. It was great.
Absolutely. And I think they took one look at David's feet, and they probably thought, fuck, we don't have size 16 socks. So they probably offered him a couple of beanies to wear on his feet after the race. But in the women's, we'll go back to the 4K. So in the women's, we had Rach Nathan come in a time of 16 minutes, 18 seconds, followed by Laura Reynolds and Heather Longworth in third. Look, good results all around. Another great year at the Founders City Beach Cup. But maybe next year we'll go under that 14-minute mark, Simon.
Yeah, or maybe we finally do an 8K. Being the old men that we are, but souls are meant to be crushed. We'll see how we go next year. Maybe Henry might go for the win next year.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. We'll move on to the Strive event that was on Saturday night. So that's Strive Program B. I don't know if you remember, Chris, but Saturday night was an absolute scorcher, even at 7 p.m. So tough conditions for those that took part at the event on Saturday night. We had the 800 meters, and we'll start with the men's with Tom Moorcroft acting as a pacer in the speedy heat, but Luke Shaw took out the win in 1 minute 50, edging out Max Shevington by 0.48 of a second. Tom Cross rounded out the podium. We had friends of the show from the Let's Cook Run team, Nathaniel Shivaraman running in 2:18.54 and Lee Chang in 2:20.60 and Adam Howarth in 2:29.36. So good to see them out there taking part in the 800 meters. And then in the women's, we had a Rebecca Newton taking out the win in 2:06.82, followed by Emma Phillip and Jasmine Pugh. We'll move on to the 5,000 meters. There wasn't much depth in the women's race with only 4 runners, and I'm going to guess that they may have run in one of the men's heats, but we had Madeline Taylor winning it in 18:09. Since there were only 4 runners, we might as well read all the results. We've got Sarah Knox coming second in 18:14, and Ella B. Hansen in 18:48, running out the podium. And then we had Charlotte Pickering in a time of 19:13. In the men's, we had Josh Nearvort running it in 14:56. followed by Jacob Howard and Ryan Greenwood running up the top three. I saw that we had 7 guys running sub 16, so a very quick race there, which included another Let's Cook member, Jack Serrett in 15:36, and Lucas Coe in 15:57. What we also saw in the results is Nathaniel and Adam backing up the 800 meters with a 5,000 meter effort. So they had times of 18:35 and 19:15. So making an efficient night on the track. But before we move on, I will call out Nathaniel's suspicious behavior. We saw that young Nat put in a seed time of 19:30, even though we all know that he can run a sub 18. So not too sure what Nathaniel's moves were, but we see that behavior, Nathaniel, and it's very unacceptable for us as hosts of the Warp. So please do better, Nathaniel, next time. Shall we move on to other results during the weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we had a pretty busy weekend for international results. So we had the 2024 100K World Championships at Bengaluru in India. It was put together by the International Association of Ultra Runners and World Masters Athletics. The temperatures there were soaring, well over 30 degrees Celsius. Team Australia came 8th in the women's with a total time of 25 hours, 51 minutes and 17 seconds. And the women's race was won by Team France in a time of 22 hours, 27 minutes and 5 seconds. Individually, the winner was Florian Hott. What a last name. In those conditions, it seems fitting. In a time of 7 hours, 8 minutes and 43 seconds, while local lady Jackie Kellerman in a time of 8 hours, 50 minutes and 3 seconds, coming in at 31st. Emma Gray was the fastest Aussie woman in a time of 8 hours, 27 minutes and 39 seconds. So, congratulations on a great run there, Jackie. Seeing some of your runs in the weeks leading up, I think we had a few weeks ago, we maybe commented on our suspicious behaviours of a 60-kilometre run on any given Sunday from Jackie, but clearly there was something in the works there, and it looks like it's paid off. So congratulations on a great run. We also had, as we've mentioned previously on the pod, we had the Honolulu Marathon on the weekend with Kat Watt taking part. It was the 4th largest marathon in the US after New York, Chicago, and Boston. So some pretty big numbers there, obviously. The winning time was Cynthia Limo in a time of 2 hours, 31 minutes and 14 seconds. And Kat Watt, I think she was aiming for a sub 3, but the conditions that she's been training in, obviously living over there now, have been fairly trying with a lot of humidity, and the conditions on the day, I think it was 29 degrees and 89% humidity, so absolutely sufferable conditions. And she managed to run a 3 hour, 1 minute, 52 seconds, coming 12th overall, which is an incredible effort. So you should be very proud of that, Kat. I'm sure you've trained very hard and put a lot of eggs in that basket, but no doubt whatever race you've got coming next, it's going to pay dividends. Her son, Evan, ran the 10K in a time of 41 minutes and 29 seconds, age 10, which is absolutely mind-boggling. I think you and I probably only running below that time probably in the last year or two. So Evan is no doubt going to be absolutely smoking us at the 3K World Champs whenever they decide to move back to Perth at some point in the future. So the Smith brothers, I believe, we had Big D and Matt Smith running the Monterey Marathon in very moist conditions on the weekend. Now, I think that's down in Mexico way, if I'm not mistaken, or California. I don't remember exactly, but you might be
Mexico.
Yeah, okay. So Big D ran a time of 3 hours, 1 minute and 27 seconds. He writes on his Strava that he could make... that he had to use his PhD in hoconomics and John Cena motivation to get over the line. So I think for anyone following along at home, there's been a lot of conjecture about some of his Strava updates recently, in particular related to an ex-partner of his. And I look, there's a lot of code and a lot of substitutions for names. So I don't actually understand what's going on, but I'm sure that for those who do, it's extremely entertaining. It's a bit of days of our lives on Strava, if you will. But yeah, keep it up, Dan, and look forward to hearing what updates you've got next. Matt Smith, aka Coach Smithie, he ran a 1 minute PB. Actually, placed fourth in a time of 2 hours 22 minutes and 28 seconds. Lost his gel apparently, and was very close to third place. So that's unbelievable, Smithy. In those conditions, obviously he's been working pretty hard for that for a while, and didn't have a great race at Perth, but all that work's paid off on the overseas run. So congratulations, Smithy. I guess one of the big stories during the week was the All School Athletics Championships in Queensland. A lot of our listeners would have already seen this all over Instagram and perhaps watched it live on the stream. But we had 16-year-old Gwat Gwat, incorrectly pronounced Gout Gout over the weekend, but Gwat Gwat clocked a time of 10 minutes and 4 seconds. Sorry, 10 minutes and 4 seconds? Fuck me. Clearly, I'm a marathon
So
runner.
slow.
Yeah. 10.04 seconds in the 100 meters in the heats, which didn't count as a record, unfortunately, due to an illegal tailwind of 3.4 meters per second. However, he won the final in a time of 10.17 seconds, and he's now sixth all time in the global under 18 list, which is unbelievable. Watching the footage of him kind of carry away from the field in that race was beggared belief. But then to watch him the following day in the 200 meter final run a time of 20.04 seconds. And breaking the Australian record at the age of 16, a record that stood for 56 years, is simply incredible. I think Peter Norman ran that previous time at the 1968 Olympic Games, and that time, 20.04 seconds in the 200, is quicker than Usain Bolt ran at this age, and second fastest in the under 18 of all time. So it is, unbelievable to watch. As you've put a point there, Simon, he's very Usain-esque in his style and strong fishing. Watching his stride is just something else. Pull away from fields is just looking forward to seeing what he does in the future, particularly in the Olympics coming up in 4 years. But I'm sure there's going to be some opportunities to watch him in the World Champs over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I think, look, he's still only 16, so he's still potentially growing, potentially building some muscle mass as well. So, as long as the hype doesn't get to him, I think we're going to see some faster times and some stronger performances from him. So it'll be interesting to see what he looks like in 4 years' time. Even if he goes to the world champs over the next coming years, it'll be interesting to see how his times go in the 100 meters and 200 meters.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we'll move on to some events that are coming up over the next few weeks. So we've mentioned it in the past, the 6-inch marathon is coming up this Sunday, the 15th of December. That still has tickets available from what we can see. I think we just tried registering a little earlier just to double check. So we'll put a link in the show notes to registration for that. But there's a 46k marathon option and a 23k half marathon. So obviously approximate distances, but supposedly the escalator, the infamous escalator, has been graded recently by a giant bulldozer. So supposedly it's a little bit easier. So anybody looking to run a quick time and and not suffer through those final 7Ks of the race, potentially this is your year to have a go. The Parloof Relay with the Marathon Club, that's coming up on Boxing Day. It's basically a 1K loop. You form a team of 2 and you run. You're relaying 1 kilometer loops, and the team with the most laps in 30 minutes wins effectively. It looks like Perich asked me during the week if I'd run with him, run that, and I thought, nah, shit, I'll be on the couch watching the Boxing Day test. But then my son Henry asked me, "Oh, are there any other races coming up?" I'm like, "Oh, you know what, son? There's actually a Parloof Relay coming up in a couple of weeks." So, sorry, Perich, son takes precedence. I'll skip the cricket for Henry, but not for you. And then following that, I think on the 12th of January we've got the Matilda Bay Run, which is always a great one. Last year was an absolute shocker in terms of the heat. I think it was like 36 degrees or something. We had people collapsing all over the place. I don't think I've ever sweated so much in my life. There's a 4K option there. There's also a 10K option. We'll call those the world champs. You tell me otherwise. And then on the 18th of January, the much anticipated night for Go and 2 and 5. That's the state 5,000 champs. There'll be some community races before that. For those willing to enter, and then so I suppose you submit your seed times for that, and depending on the number of entrants, they'll break that down to an appropriate number of heats. So, unfortunately, you've advised me that you won't be available for that race because Linda has organised something else. But maybe you should just strap Miata to your back and have a crack and see if you can run sub 20 with a child on your back.
Well, I saw on Instagram that one of our mates tagged us that someone broke a pram world record running 100K. So look, if Athwes are willing to accept a pram as a onto the track, then maybe Miata just has to sit in a pram for 17.59 minutes, and we'll see if we can get the sub 18 done then. But look, look, unfortunately, one of the perils of forgetting to put events on the family calendar means that, unfortunately, I might have to give that night a miss. But what I have done as a result is put in all of my planned runs in the calendar for 2025, just so that the same mistake won't happen again. But look, I'll have to give it a miss. And look, it is Linda's birthday after all, so I don't think it is a good excuse for me to go to the community run that night, unfortunately. All right, we'll move on to the interview that we have this week. So in this week's interview, we speak to a lovely man by the name of Ian Gibbs. He's a legend of the Bunbury running scene, the local Bunbury Runners Club, and is the event director of the Bunbury Running Festival. So the 2025 Bunbury Running Festival is scheduled for Sunday, the 13th of April, 2025, with distances ranging from the 5K all the way through to the marathon. Here is me speaking to Ian. We're recording on Sunday, the 1st of December, the weekend of the Bottleton Ironman. I'm joined with someone who I believe has done an Ironman before, but he's also the event director of the Three Waters Bunbury Running Festival. I'm joined by Ian Gibbs. Thanks for joining us in the pod. How are you, mate?
Hi Simon, how you going?
Good. So I'm down in Busso to cheer on my mate Brendan, who's doing Ironman for the first time. But I understand that you've done an Ironman quite some time ago, and probably a couple of Ironmans since. So what's your history into the Ironman? How did that come about?
Well, it's quite ironic, really, because it was 20 years ago. I, on a bit of a dare, we just completed the Comrades Marathon. We're laying on the floor in a B&B in South Africa, and a lady that had encouraged us to do the Comrades, and that said, she was going to do the Ironman, and I probably couldn't do it, and that was enough. So I managed to be involved in the first Ironman and actually had a really good day out. It was fantastic. Yeah, so... And then subsequently I retired and decided to do another one with a couple of friends from Bunbury. Yeah. And we did the New Zealand Ironman in 23 by chance. And obviously in my age group, it gets a bit easier. I qualified to go to Nice. So we went over and did Nice as well. So, which was an enormous experience. Very, very tough Ironman. And I'm probably not going to do too many more.
Not anymore, yeah. Until you get dared again, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So what was your history into running? So, you did Comrades and then the Ironman story and journey came after that. So how did your running story start?
Well, I started probably after team sports. I had a young family and I was really quite unfit from post-team sport and had put on quite a bit of weight. So I started running, and I guess in team sports I hated running, right? But once I started running and it was very quick to become addicted to running. And I think, within a year I was having a go at my first marathon with the Perth Marathon. Did a couple, and then obviously family dominated my life for a while. We moved to Bunbury and got involved in the Runners Club, Bunbury Runners Club, and I think in the first year I was in Bunbury, I was a course director or something like that. So I
Yeah.
jumped straight in.
Straight in, yep.
And, you know, it's been a 30-odd year happy marriage with the Runners Club, and I've been sort of involved in the three waters really from the beginning.
Oh, so, wonderful.
Yeah.
So tell us about the Bunbury Runners Club then. So how did that start? And you were there since the very beginning. So how did that come about?
Yeah, look, there was a group of people down here that were distance runners, you know, and they were sort of involved in athletics, but it wasn't really catering for the distance runners. So a very small group of guys that started it up really was around that first marathon. They put on the first Bunbury Marathon and half marathon. It was run in very humble conditions at Hay Park. And about 2 years in, I came down and did the half here. And that's really where I started. But that dedicated group of people really established the Bunbury Runners Club, and it was a distance running club. Over time, it's evolved now into, you know, embracing everybody and bringing everyone into the fold. So it's a very friendly club. Got probably about 150 members. You know, the Three Waters is really our cornerstone event each year, although we do have 3 other major events that we sort of focus on: Women's Only, Father's Day, and then an Australia Day run as well.
Oh, beautiful. So the running festival, the Bunbury Running Festival started very early on, and it's been over 40 years now. It's 43. In its 43rd year now, coming up. So how did that start as a concept, and what were some of the, I guess, challenges, the early challenges in getting that up and running, and how has it evolved over the 40 years? Right.
So that very first one, I think from memory there was about 25 starters in the marathon.
Yep.
I think there was only about 45 starters in the half, right?
Yep.
It started out at Hay Park, which is a large sporting complex here in Bunbury.
Yeah.
It was a single lap run, and
Okay.
it virtually wandered all over Bunbury, out the wharf.
Yep.
It had about 58 marshals just to keep but there wasn't all the hassles of traffic management back then.
You were just running on footpaths.
You ran on the road, you ran on the footpaths.
Yep.
It was very easy to put on an event
Yep.
back then. Although, having said that, logistically you had to put more water out because it was a single lap event. But some fantastic runners came down here, and a lot of listeners would know John Gilmore. John Gilmore broke 2 records on that particular course.
Oh, wow.
Back in the day, you know, age group records. So it was again a well-supported event from the Marathon Club in Perth and the vets back then, who now they've always supported us really, really well.
Great.
As time went on, we've evolved the course. It became a 2-lap course. It was almost mostly along the back beach and then out into the suburbs to the south. And over time, there was a couple of people suggested we needed to get it right into the centre of Bunbury and bring everyone into the centre of town. So it still traverses the back beach, and that's really one of the key features. But now, of course, it goes around the Leshenot Inlet.
Yep.
It goes out on the wharf, and it really does showcase the best parts. You know, it goes to the Dolphin Beach, which is one of the big attractions here in Bunbury. And it's now a 2-lap course, really encompassing really the best features of Bunbury.
Yeah, and you know, Chris and I are huge fans of the event. I've done the Bunbury Marathon, I think, 3 times now. So back in 2021, where it was rescheduled to later in the year in August.
Yes.
And so I think that was the 40th anniversary that you
right,
had,
yes.
and you had you must have had the 50k event also that year.
Correct.
And so I met Karlos Aquino, who did the 50k, and I think from memory he must have finished at the same time as the female. They ran to the finish together.
Yes.
So that was awesome to see for me. Like, meanwhile, I'm just struggling, hitting 25Ks and starting to cramp already. And then you've tweaked the course slightly since in recent years. So I think this year you cut out a bit of stretch of Oceanic Drive where it's a little bit more flatter now as well.
Yes.
So is that Is that based on feedback that you've received, or is it a combination of, trying to improve on the experience for those that do the marathon here?
Yeah, well, look, when we've laid these courses out over the time, we listen to the runners, first of all. You've got to listen to the runners. Traffic management always plays a big part in setting these up. And obviously we have to close one lane of the Ocean Drive for the event, which is actually turning out to be a good thing to do. Last couple of years we've been, there's been earthworks and changes in the course have only been as a result of not being able to go where we really wanted to. This year we'll be exactly where we want to be, and we'll be following mostly path. We will... we've taken out a couple of little sharp bends, and that's really feedback. People tell us that those sharp bends are hard, so we're taking them out as best we can. There's still 3 90 or 180 degree turns, but I've just recently done a marathon in Helsinki, and it's very similar. If you're trying to condense it into an area, and I did Fremantle half the other week, it's similar. If you're trying to condense it into an area, you're going to get a few of those 180 degrees.
Yeah. And I think this year what I liked was because you do the big swamp, but instead of turning left after you get out of the swamp, you go back, and then you do a stretch of the suburbs now that I think wasn't there in previous years. So I think it's definitely a faster marathon. You've kept it in April, which from a timing point of view is perfect for the Perth running, the WA running calendar point of view. What are some of the further tweaks that you're thinking of doing in future years, or are you quite satisfied with the way that it's looking now in terms of a course profile point of view?
I think the course is getting very close. We will always just look at any danger points. There is a couple of little spots that we have always been aware it's probably runners coming towards each other.
Sure,
so we'll take 2 of them out this year fairly easily. We'll take that out. I think the course is going to be quite quick. It's going to continue to be a fair course. I'd call it a fair course. The fastest course is always going to be a flat, straight, no bends. But I think the features of this course are that runners, supporters and families traverse the course very easily and not interfere with the running course at all. We often see as a bit of a feature, there's 7 playgrounds this course. And from my own family, my daughter did it a couple of years ago, did the marathon. No, actually did it this year. The fact that her family can go and play in the playground, mum go past, it is a nice feature. And,
it is.
And there's 7 playgrounds on the course. So it really does make it allows that family involvement.
Well, that's it. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why my mates and I always pick Bunbury as a destination marathon, really, because of the timing, but also the course itself, where it seems really easily to navigate as a family and spectators to go to certain points of the course as well. So, the big swamp being like one key area of Bunbury that you could go to. There's a couple of playgrounds there, and then you go to sort of that dolphin sort of beachfront as well, and there's a couple of playgrounds there as well. So that's really awesome from my point of view, selfishly, with a 4-year-old who gets really bored easily, doesn't really care that daddy's running a marathon, and can golf and play for a bit. So that's awesome there. One of the things that we loved about the Bunbury Marathon, the running festival in general, is because you balance that experience, right? It really is a community event, and you kind of feel that as someone that comes from Perth and travels down, and that's probably one of the draw cards to Bunbury. Whereas you do the Perth Running Festival, Freo to a certain extent, it can be quite busy and quite commercialised, but you seem to have that balancing act between a really sophisticated and well-run event, but also really homegrown and community feel. So is that something that's really important to you in terms of maintaining that?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Our committee are local people. Some are, got their own little businesses in town. All our marshals, obviously they come from the club. A lot of our marshals come from small community groups, So and the drink stations are community groups, and we donate to them to make it worthwhile for them. But the park run team will run the Big Swamp drink station. We've got a little teachers group that run another drink station. We've got the men's shed that run another drink station. So all of those are community-based people which we don't donate back to. And I think that adds to the feature of the event.
Excellent. With 2025 being the 43rd edition,
Yep.
of the running festival overall, what are some of the behind the scenes things that as an event director that you're having to think about that perhaps people don't realize is required in an event of this nature? So what are the headaches that you would experience as the event director of this event?
The first thing is traffic management. I'm sure you hear this story, but it does complicate a small community or a small group like the Bunbury Runners Club. It does complicate things. It's obviously there to make it safe. So that's our first thing. We always have to sit down with the city and make sure that we can get approval, and then we go through the traffic management. We spend a fair bit of time planning where the marshals will be. The drink stations, they find their own place because, we try and do it under 5Ks apart. But then sponsorship's a big deal for us. We need to find sponsors. We want to support an event like this, and then you've got to give back to them in some way. That's a constant. And then trying to think, what would the runners want? Do they want a T-shirt or do they want a cheaper event? And so all of those and that's a constant conversation, and we probably still haven't found the perfect answer to that. Because some people will say, well, I've got 100 T-shirts, and someone else will say, well, this is my first event, I need a T-shirt. So, we like to think that the medal that a person gets when they cross the line is a little bit unique because, that is a keeper. So those are the little things that probably dominate our conversation. Trying to get that nice little formula for the event.
I mean, if my wife's opinion means anything, she would probably say that I've got enough shirts, so you can cut the shirts out, but you could probably make the medal a bit nicer, which would be good. You get a lot of Perth travellers coming down for the Bunbury event. The community feel the course being the way it is now, being quite a fast event, and it is quite easy to travel from Perth down to Bunbury. Do you find that you have a really good relationship with the runners clubs that are in the Perth metro area as a result of that?
Yeah, certainly the WA Marathon Club particularly has always supported us. The Masters group has always supported us, and in the early days, this event probably wouldn't have survived without the support of the WA Marathon Club. Some of the running coaching groups now have got behind us, front runners, got behind us, and I make contact with most of those if I can, see if they can get their athletes on the program, because that's important to us. We certainly want fast runners to come, and Karlos won last year. We've had some very fast runners, and Ryan Bailey ran a couple of years ago. He's a local lad. So we encourage those, but we also want those people that want to do their first. We want those people that want to have a really good experience and come back, because that really is the future of the event, is to have people coming back regularly. People, there's a couple of people now getting up close to 20. We're hoping that we can acknowledge those, and that's a bit of a focus this year as well.
Beautiful, yeah. And this year you had some fast times. So you had Karlos come down. I think he was hoping to hit 2 hours 32 as a qualifier for Tokyo, and he got really close there. Yes. And you had Vladixel come down, and he won the half. You had Kat Watt also come down as well. So some fast runners coming down from Perth to really take a stab at the course and get some records. Do they have the course record? Do you know who has the course record across the distances?
Because the courses have changed, it's pretty probably hard to say they've got course record. Both Karlos and Ryan are right down in the bottom. I think they're in the top 5 of all time. Kat's pretty close. There's been people here that have set the bar. There's a couple of locals in the early days that got down into the 228s. So we haven't had any sub 230s in recent years, but I'm expecting it pretty soon that we'll get a sub 230. Yeah.
I only said that because I think that motivates Karlos to come back down and try. When I tell him that he doesn't have the fastest marathon, so Karlos, if you're listening, if you come down next year, you'll take another stab at it.
Yes. So invited, so
beautiful. I think he's penciled it in. I think from my conversations with him, the 2025 edition is scheduled for Sunday, the 13th of April, 2025. This year it did clash with the Bridges run, which might have affected numbers, but it seemed like the event still sold out.
Yes.
This year. What are your expectations expectations for the event next year in terms of whether it sells out or what the experience that you're looking to deliver for those that come down? Like what are some of the benchmarks that you're hoping to achieve in the 2025 edition?
We'd love to have 1,000 runners this year. It was 900 last year, and we had some cut-offs, right? So we've opened those cut-offs up a little bit. But, ideally, if we can get 300 in the fall, 350 to 400 in the half, and then the 10 and 5s will fill up, particularly with local runners. Locals will come, families supporting, come and do the 10s and 5s, so they'll always... we'll get the numbers there. Marathon and the half is the ones we'd really like to get people and get them coming back. Not only come and do this one, but come back. And we'll keep improving what we give. Time goes by. And
I think the fact that the marathon course is a 2-lapped one and not a multiple lap course, more than 2, sort of sets that apart a little bit. And I think the other thing that you guys put up is, special drinks tables for those that do the marathon as well, which for someone that sweats a lot, I really appreciate. I would imagine that the Bunbury Running Festival is a sort of a key event in the regional community. Obviously, you've got the Busselton Bay Run that happens in the February month, which is a quite warm time of year as well. Do you find that from a scheduling point of view that impacts your numbers slightly, or how does that impact the event itself?
I think it did initially, particularly the marathon. The half was always a great lead up, but when the Bunbury Runners Club introduced the marathon, I think it did have a bit of an impact on our event. I think now, people are recognising that it is a good course, good first timers course. We know that. And so many people have done it. I think there's 80 of our own members have done their first marathon here last few years. And we know it's a good first-timers course. It's relatively fast, good time of year. I don't think the impact's as great now. I think when initially, Busselton's a great destination. Everyone knows that. Everyone loves, you've got the jetty swim, you've got sort of things going on. So it's naturally going to be very popular. But I think, our timing, the relationship to the Perth running festivals and that we get a nice distance between Bunbury and Roto. So, and that's not an accident. We really want that to happen so that people have got lots of choices through the year to run a good marathon.
Yeah, and I think people do sort of see Bunbury as a good option in the lead up to a lot of the other events throughout the year as well. So whether they use it as a stepping stone for Rottnest or even just to test the fitness in the lead up to a potential Perth marathon later in October as well. Not only that, a lot of interstate sort of marathon options like Gold Coast as well sort of puts into play as well.
I think it's really important. We've always tried to make this a qualification course, so it's certified, and that we pride ourselves that it is a certified course. In the early days, we know that a lot of people used it to qualify for Comrades, but subsequently people are using it for Boston, New York. It is a measured course. So we think that people will see it as an opportunity for those events, and of course Sydney will need some qualifiers now, won't it? So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and this is a good option to have, right? Yes. So beautiful. A not serious question. So one of the names that Chris and I love to read on the WA Running podcast is a person by the name of Zacchaeus Gildersleeve. We're wondering, is that a real person's name for a start? But if he is real, is he a local boy, and what's he like? What's the intel that you can provide as a Bunbury local?
Right. Well, Zach's real. He's absolutely real, and he's probably in the top 2 or 3 runners in our club at the moment.
Yep.
He won a club champ race the other week, so he's up there. He ran a very fast Sandman a couple of weeks ago with another quite fast runner from Shelley Smith. So they teamed up, but Zach's real. He's a 21-year-old. He's recently joined the club. I think he joined the club with his dad about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, after they moved back to Bunbury from Geraldton. Zach's dad, Troy, was a member, and he was a pretty handy triathlete in his day. I think he was going to start last year and done something wrong and damaged a hammy or something. But Zach's got a twin, Brock, and I think they're fairly similar appearance, but Zach's certainly the runner, and he's running really well. He's got some goals. He is running very, very well at the moment.
That sort of leads to my next question. So who are some of the faster runners here in Bunbury? So Zach being one of them, but who are some of the up and comers in the Bunbury area who may challenge for the podium spots in the Bunbury Running Festival next year?
Well, Hannah Pageant. Hannah has just broken 3 hours. You know, she's certainly up there in WA at the moment. I think Hannah was second to Kat last year. So, you know, she's certainly one of our runners that's doing very well at the moment. Keaton Hardwick pops up every now and again and moves into the longer stuff at times. Keaton's still quite quick. Eamon, skipped his surname, but Eamon is also running very well. They've been getting some guidance from a guy called Keith Yardley, and Keith's always been one of our very, very good runners, and I think, you know, they've all got great futures. I think Shelley will go under 3 hours before too long. I've got a bit of pressure there, but yeah, but I've told her that she will. And I'm sure that she wants to, but Hannah's doing very well. She just first in her age group in Setagaya 2 weeks ago.
Asked you a question without any notice, but one of the things that I hate about the Bunbury Marathon is this little climb to Bunbury Lighthouse, the checkered bastard that I see on the 30k mark. It's not much of a hill, but you can feel it when you hit 30k's. Would you ever remove that little hill in future editions, or is that here to stay?
No, that's a Bunbury icon.
Yeah.
That looks the best in the photos.
It does.
That little lighthouse looks great in the photos. The way I look at that hill, and I've succumbed to it twice myself, is that it's a great marker. You know, you can see it, you know, coming back from the big swamp. It's a great marker because when you get to the top of that, there's an amazing view out over the Indian Ocean. And then when you come back, if you've got to the lighthouse, you're home, and it's downhill. It's it's only probably 650, 700 metres to the finish, but it's all downhill. And some of the best photos, there's a great photo of Karlos just as he's crested that hill last year. Yeah, it's a great photo opportunity, so I'm not going to take it out.
It's a shame. It's been amazing to chat to you, mate. It's exciting to see that you've made some positive changes to the course for both the marathon, but even just the experience of the event as well. How do people find out more details about the event?
I think the quickest way is just if you type in Run Bunbury, you're going to get all the information you need about the event itself.
Thanks, mate, for coming on to the WA Running Podcast. Thanks, Ian, for taking the time to speak to me last weekend. So registrations are open for the 43rd edition of the Bunbury Running Festival. If you can head to runbunbury.com.au, you can sign up to either the marathon all the way through to the 5K events, which still have spots available. As we record, we still have 84 spots remaining in the marathon event and in the half marathon, with over 200 spots left in the 10K, with some limited spots in the 5K event. Look, you know, the Double Run Club may have taken all the tickets to the Busso Bay run for their AGM in February, but, you know, you and I have done the Bunbury Running Festival for a number of years now, most recently earlier this year in April. I think you can agree, Chris, that it is a great option. It's an amazing time of year to do a marathon, and the event that they organise by the Bunbury Runners Club is amazing. Are you going to do the marathon next year at Bunbury?
I will be doing the half marathon, I suspect, just because of the timing with Gold Coast and everything. But I think the beauty of Bunbury is that you get the advantages of training through the summer, or, you know, through our extended summer now that climate change is upon us. But, you know, we basically, you can train all the way from November through to March in scorching heat, and then you turn up to April and suddenly the temperature drops 10 degrees, and you know, you might even get a touch of rain, a little bit of cloud cover, and, you know, you've got almost perfect marathon conditions. So, yeah, beg anybody who's considering to run a marathon in that kind of first third of the year, I suggest that, you know, you take advantage of what Bunbury has to offer. It sounds like they've got some really interesting changes to the course, which might potentially make the finish a little bit quicker and a little bit less torturous. But, you know, generally it's a very flat marathon. I think, you know, there's the issue with the lighthouse, which everybody carries on about a bit, and you and I tend to make a bit of a joke about it. But I think, you know, ultimately it's a relatively flat marathon. It's scenic and it's well organised. They've got great volunteers, and the conditions are almost always perfect. So we'll be there for sure. What are your plans for that, Simon, in that race?
I haven't signed up yet, but I'm thinking the half marathon as well, as part of a tune-up race. And and I can't remember if my marathon build starts by then, but either
Mm.
way, it would be a good fitness test for me in terms of where my fitness is at leading up to the Gold Coast Marathon. So yeah, no, I'm likely to do the half marathon. I did ask Ian about the course records, and in the marathon, and it looks like it's sitting at 2 hours 28. So with the course tweaks that he's put in place this year or for next year, if we can get some fast guys like a Karlos back or a Nick John Arlen to give that course a red hot crack, we might see the course record fall. We shall see. Shall we finish the show off with Warp Admin?
Yeah, sure. Why not? So our weird and wonderful weapons of warp this week. There's a few little things that have been brought to our attention, either through our own scrolling of Strava or otherwise people pointing out some suspicious behaviours from people they follow. So it looks like Mitch Gray is training to do a marathon around a car. Mitch, if you're listening, are you okay, mate? Because I'm sure I hope it's a big car because, look, you're going to end up pretty sore after that. It looks like Charles Bosfield's been doing a bit of his own work this week. No penises, unfortunately, as we saw last week from our Bevan Hargrave. But it looks like Charles gone a bit more classy, and he's drawn a little rabbit in the suburbs, which was quite a little interesting take. Unfortunately, it's not Easter time, so there's no eggs waiting in the basket. But Charles, keep it up. I look forward to seeing what you've got going next. Looks like Karlos and Migs Aquino are up to a bit more suspicious behaviour this week. Again, running another race. This time it was the Hoka Trilogy Run Asia National Finals. So, look, Karlos has had a couple of good wins over the last 2 or 3 weeks, but this time it looks like some people possibly had been catching on to what Karlos had been up to, and so we've had a couple of East Africans fly over and absolutely torture him on this course, unfortunately. But it was nevertheless a very, very fast time, running I think 3:30 per kilometre at 3 a.m. in the morning. I think Miggs may have run a pretty good race himself as well. So guys, I'm not sure if you've got any more races planned before the end of the year or before the end of your trip, but looking forward to seeing you back in Perth for the 4K World Champs at Matilda Bay.
Yep. So look, that's the end of the episode. Reach out and connect. Our Strava group Warp is now sitting at 723. So I think we've had a drop in followers in our Warp Strava group. So looks like we might have to do a controversial meme to get the numbers up there. We are losing friends of the show, unfortunately, there. Our Instagram is sitting on 933 followers. So thank you for your support. Our email address, well, we actually got a new email address because after Matt handed over the Outlook account to us, we were getting copious amounts of junk email from very wacky, suspicious accounts. So we've decided to create a Gmail account. So our email address is now warunningpodcast@gmail.com. Our Instagram is warunningpod, and our Strava group is Warp. And that's it for us for this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.